Are you searching for the best in online black radio? Then go to blacktalkradionetwork.com, helping you filter through the noise. Real talk, black talk.
The internet is full of half-truths and all-out lies. We've all seen them, and many people on social media complaining about it. Here's your chance to show and prove. WorldAfropedia.com is a black-owned and operated encyclopedia. There are several thousand articles, but we need help. We can't uncover all the truth ourselves. So please, join us and become a writer, editor, or blogger for WorldAfropedia.com today. Every little bit counts. We owe it to the future generations to put the truth out there. Visit WorldAfropedia.com, the African-centered encyclopedia, a global database of African knowledge for the purpose of bringing about global African wisdom and understanding. WorldAfropedia.com.
A Coweta County woman is finding out the hard way that news travels fast, very fast, on Facebook. That's after a profanity-laced racist rant went viral. Our Valerie Hoff is following this story, joins us from the newsroom with more on this. Val, I know that they have taken it down, but boy, it's still having repercussions.
That's right, Brenda. The damage was already done, and now that woman is out of a job. In just a few sentences, this Facebook post outraged and appalled thousands with its use of the N-word, the F-word, references to Africa, welfare, and pity parties, all aimed at African Americans. Stunned Facebook users shared the post, tweeted it, and bombarded the woman's employer, Bank of America's social media pages, insisting the woman, a personal banker, be fired. For hours, there was no response from the bank. Then this tweet early this afternoon saying the employee had been terminated.
I'm surprised they didn't do it sooner, frankly, because this type of publicity is awful for a business. I mean, no one wants to be seen as employing someone with this type of an opinion, especially someone who doesn't have the ability to just keep that opinion to themselves if that's what she actually believes.
No one answered the door when we tried to ask that banker about her post and the resulting firestorm, and by mid-afternoon, her Facebook page had completely disappeared, though not her remarks.
Once you open the door to that, you've basically consented to the distribution of your comment. It is public at the time you post it to Facebook. So if you want to keep it private, don't put it on Facebook.
The Bank of America tells me that the controversial Facebook post was actually reported to them yesterday. They did their own investigation and confirmed the employee did write it. That's why she was terminated today.
You know, it's absolutely unbelievable. I mean, at this stage of the game, who doesn't know that, you know, when you put something on social media that it's everybody gets to see it?
I know.
Like, who doesn't know that by now? All right, Val, thank you.
Context of White Supremacy, Gus T Renegade, and for another broadcast, hopefully to share constructive information on the system of white supremacy. Today's date, Thursday, June 2nd, 2016. So I have been told we were a little bit late getting started. We had some tech issues. The switchboard just wouldn't load for some reason, which was even more curious because I had just went to the switchboard. That's where I load any of the audio segments, like what you just heard. That's where I load anything that I'm going to play during the course of the program. So I had just been there like 30 minutes beforehand and loaded the audio segment and worked fine, no problems. And then when it was time for the program, the page wouldn't load. So that delayed us a little bit. Thanks for folks being patient. Wasn't too long, but do make an effort to be punctual with the program. That's it. This is workplace racism, as I had been saying for about a month now. I did not want to make this change for a variety of reasons, but we have had growing participation on the compensatory program, which will be this Saturday. And we have been doing workplace racism as a part of the compensatory call-in for years now. And we have enough participants that it was making the program longer than 3 hours. And even within that, people were still not really getting an opportunity to share everything that they had before we got to workplace racism, and then even sometimes we were having to go over for people to be able to discuss what they wanted to with regards to workplace racism. So I felt this would give an opportunity, that way people could chime in, share their thoughts on workplace racism. We also had multiple folks saying that the segment on workplace racism, where it normally aired, was late. The live time was about 11, a little after 11 p.m. Eastern, 10 p.m. Central, and for some folks that was a little late for them to be able to stay up and participate and what have you. So hopefully this will make it easier for people to be able to participate, since it's obviously much, much earlier. That said, the number to dial, 641-715-3640, and the code is 564943#. Press star 6 if you would like to participate. The number again, 641-715-3640, and the code is 564943#. Press star 6 if you would like to participate. Looking forward, hoping folks will chime in, participate. This is not, this is just like it would be on the Saturday program. So this is not, Gus to talk or act wild or anything like that, or have anything to say. We are exclusively focused on workplace racism. So this is not broadcast to be discussing other things that are happening, other areas of activity. Well, now we'll have even more time for that on the Saturday program. So if we can stay on task with what it is, again, I assert there's no way you can have a collection of even 5 black people and to not have at least 4, and that might even be, playing it, downplaying the magnitude of this problem. But there's no way that you can get, a sizable portion of black people together, even a small group of black people together, and this should not be a topic where everybody has a lot to share, even if you're not personally having a lot of problems on the job. You have to be observing things in your work environment from non-white people that you work with, white people that you work with. I just don't think it's any way possible that you can, everything can be that great that there are no problems. And if things are that great, certainly invest in the program. If things are going that well on your job, you're getting all your promotions, raises, everything is wonderful for you. You're moving right up the corporate ladder, heading right on up to that CEO office on the corner. Grand. And you should be dialing in to share how you have been able to accomplish that. I say that all the time. It's not just for people who are having problems on the job. Have you been able to figure out some things that work well to minimize problems, minimize conflict with other non-white people? That's something that has come up a lot over the years. Minimize conflict with racist, diffuse situations, get yourself out of problems. Even matter of fact, even better, make sure that you don't even get to that point where you are in a position of having a problem of some sort. Fantastic. Dial in and let us know how you were able to do that. That is great. We need more of those types of suggestions, codification, really. So if folks have thoughts on that, again, dial in. Just what I wanted to share about the audio segment that you heard at the beginning, that was Bank of America, where I guess this white female, she had made some Facebook postings calling black people nigger and all this other stuff. You can actually see the Facebook posting if you look at that article online. They have a screenshot of what was written online. But the reason that I thought that was important, I played it with the workplace racism segment. That's something that you should keep in mind as well. That growing, people are doing a lot of that even before you are hired for a job, where they're going and looking at your social media. If you have a social media account on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram or anything else where it's under your name, where increasingly that's a part of the employment process, where they go back and dig through all that and see if you have anything incendiary on your social media site and what have you. I know Dr. Cambon talked about that years ago. I think he mentioned it on the program that that's something that he would do. I think he recommended not just sanitizing your page, but delete it entirely so that you don't have any sort of footprint there at all. If you have links to Dr. Welsing's work or anything else that might, whoa, wait a minute, don't know if we want this Negro on the plantation with us. Get on out of here. We'll, get somebody else who's a bit more confused about things. To not have anything like that on your page, because that sort of thing is happening more and more frequently, where something that someone tweeted or wrote on their Facebook page or what have you ends up causing them problems on the job. If you see that sort of thing happening for a racist, then you would know that for a black person, that's certainly going to be an even bigger deal. If you've posted something, and I mean, there have been cases that I can think of where a black person got fired. I think it was a black teacher down in Texas when the whole Ferguson thing was happening in 2014, where she wrote something, she was upset, and she ended up losing her job, and they went after her pension as well. And even some black people, this was in Oregon, where they were posting, they didn't get fired, but just based on the tweets that they were posting. And I think they were just posting content where they might have used the hashtag Black Lives Matter. They ended up being investigated. I think the state attorney general was like following them and doing surveillance on their online activity or what have you. Just something to keep in mind, because that can certainly end up being a problem on the job, things that you're doing on your social media sites, even in your free time. We had people that wrote 2 comments that people shared. They wrote in on my Facebook page. I will share their commentary, and hopefully they can dial in themselves to even give greater clarification about what was said. Let's see. Give me a moment to pull it up here. Okay. Alrighty. So first post here, and this person had said, this is one of the folks who had said that they weren't able to dial in during the workplace racism segment of the compensatory call-in. Heard that from quite a few listeners. Again, hopefully this will remedy all that so people will be able to participate. All right. So this person wrote in, workplace racism anecdotes. I am Miss Priss. That's the handle she's going by. I've been listening for about 5 years. First, I would like to describe my current setting before I talk about my workplace racism. I work for a government institution where there are about 200 total employees. I would say 190 are white employees and only 10 are non-white black female employees. No black males at all. The few non-white black female employees work in various levels, and they seem to be content with the current atmosphere. They attend luncheons, potlucks, laugh, joke, and talk with racists on the job all the time. Well, the current situation is that one of the non-white black females happens to be my supervisor. I say supervisor, not boss, because boss is a plantation term that I do not like to use. She supervises about 12 employees, all white, and including me, so the atmosphere is strange to say the least, because every day the non-white black supervisor makes it a habit to openly nitpick, criticize, consistently watch, and question me about my work. In turn, she talks, laughs, jokes, and praises the 4 white females and 8 white males in the office. The non-white black supervisor is extremely patient when the white employees make mistakes, and oftentimes when she is displeased with something that I have done, she whispers and talks about me in a disgusted tone to the white female coworkers as if they are her best friends. So that sets the tone for the white coworkers to be less refined in our section. They are so bold that they say things like, "Oh, Becky, did you read the news yesterday about Mike Brown's father? He should have been shot too." Or, "Hey, let's call security. There is a black male walking around in our employee parking lot and I don't feel safe." Well, the non-white black female supervisor co-signs their tacky acts by responding by laughing really loud and saying things like, "You are so right. Let's call security because I am afraid to walk to my car." Or if someone is pregnant, I have heard them say, "Well, I hope they do not name the child one of those black ghetto names. Or another time when the non-white black female supervisor thought it was constructive to announce that she does not attend black funerals because they are too long and she gets tired of black people acting a fool. All of the white people in the office laughed hysterically after her comment. Not only does this non-white black female supervisor say things that are inappropriate of having black self-respect, she makes it a habit to friend all of the white employees on Facebook, social media again, invites herself to their homes after work, and even goes as far as she makes weekend plans with the white employees. Not once have I argued or given her a rebuttal for her acts of treason against me because I try to remain patient and not give the co-workers the satisfaction of seeing two non-white black females arguing for their enjoyment. At this point, there's probably nothing that I can do but find employment elsewhere because trying to change the black female employee or reporting her to the white co-workers to an all-white administration would be useless. So I've been on a journey to find some place that is less hostile. I know that I cannot avoid racism, but I would like to leave my current situation because I see no improvement. The white employees are seriously hostile, and some of their acts include talking aloud and disturbing you while on the phone, walking into the office and skipping your desk and giving assignments to the white employees because they do not want you handling their paperwork, not hiring non-white black males, concealing important information about work, making fun of how black people talk, and referring to each other as "Bye, Felicia," using a tone that one would say they are making fun of black people when they leave for the day. The anecdotes are endless. End of her field notes. There was one other anecdote. Before I get to that one, just two quick things I'll say, and then if folks have commentary, suggestions about what she shared. That "Bye, Felicia" thing, I've heard that from so many listeners. I don't know if they have all participated on the program and dialed in, but I have heard that for years now. Yes, the Straight Outta Compton thing, because they made that a joke, a gag in the movie that came out last summer. It came up there. It also, from Friday, from some years ago where that was said as well. I've heard that consistently, and it just seems that that is just a part of the tacky culture in terms of things that are said to degrade and make fun of black people. Just seems very, very constant. I'm sure that there are other things that are added to it as we go in terms of the whole tacky workplace culture. But that one I've heard from numerous listeners, and I don't know what part of the world this person is in, but I've heard from different folks that are in different parts of the world, and they said the same thing. The other thing, I did think that was great restraint in terms of making an effort to not, get into an argument with this black female supervisor just for the entertainment of whites. They love seeing that sort of thing happen on the job. There's so much here. I guess the one comment that I would make, I think a lot of workplace racism, it's not so much about trying to change other people on the job. I think a lot of times it's figuring out things that you can do, changes that you can make yourself so that you get a better result. Almost just kind of assuming that they're going to do what they do. Whether it's a white person, non-white person, they're going to do what they do. These are things that I can do. These are changes that I can make myself in terms of things that I say, things that I don't say, if I respond, if I don't respond, how I manage my emotions, that sort of thing, so that I get a better result in how I am dealing with this particular situation. That's, lots there. Folks have other suggestions on that. Feel free. I'll hit the phone lines once I get the last message from our listener, and they actually had a visual presentation. I'll post this on Facebook for people who are on my page, but basically it was an image. It said, do your time sheets, I guess, for people who are on jobs. If you have like an actual piece of paper, something that you have to, log your hours, or if you have to get on a computer or something and, make sure you clock whatever hours you work or what have you. And next to it was written, it said, please make sure you do your timesheets. So next to that, it had an image of a slave being beaten, whipped, lashed, literally, with Roots being rebroadcast this week. They said that was the image that they had up, I guess, to remind people to make sure that they did their timesheets. And I would just insist that you cannot be ignorant about racism with that sort of thing. And I think it even seriously contradicts the notion that somehow white people are ignorant and they needed Roots as a reminder to make sure that they were informed about what happened during slavery and what their thoughts, make sure that they feel bad, that that's not something that we should be casual or joking about people being mutilated, beaten, killed during the formal enslavement plantation era of white supremacy. Anywho, that being said, we'll hit the phone lines. Folks have commentary on the folks who wrote in the two pieces that we heard already, or if you have your own incidents of workplace racism that you would like to discuss, feel free. The number again is 641-715-3640. Let's see, the folks that are with us on the line, same way we do it on the compensatory call-in. All the folks who dialed in with a hand up should be with us. If you had commentary on what you heard, that is fine. If you have your own incidents of workplace racism, that is fine too.
May I be heard?
Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, Gus. Good evening to the callers and listeners. Wanted to share my experience this week. It's been interesting because since last August, I stopped contracting, so to speak, with attorneys' office where I was able to work from home, and now I am saturated into this work environment. I lasted at 2 law firms, and now I'm at a 3rd law firm, and I'm finding so many similarities within the law practice. This firm that I'm at now is interesting because, once again, I get a comment about how quiet I am and how it just makes the white women that I am working with, they're uncomfortable. But it's okay because I'm noticing, like you said, I'm just trying to find ways to just, deal with being in this environment. And so it was interesting because this week I find that when there's this one lady, she will make comments, and anytime there's a comment about like TV shows, reality shows where with black actors and actresses, just things that she thinks I should know about, the scandals, the empires, or anything that happens on TV videos, she will specifically ask me, did you see that, or do you remember this TV show, or something like that. And I don't talk. I just go in and do my work. And if I know it or not, I just play ignorant. I'm like, no, I'm not familiar with that. And so she's going out of her way to try to, oh yeah, you remember Different Strokes with the little Arnold, or she'll come up with all these things to try to jog my memory. And I'm like, no, I'm not familiar with it. And so it's like, it's frustrating her because she's coming back with just different ways to try to engage me in conversation. And so, I just tell her, I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with the TV shows. I don't watch a lot of TV, and I never have. So, and it was just interesting because it's like she won't let up on that. This is, I work with a lot of white women. The lady that I'm speaking of in particular, she is proud to announce that she is a lesbian. This is her declaration. She makes it known, and she's pregnant. She talks about her partner and how she was, how they're expecting. And so you get to hear this conversation because she talks about just the process and what, she wants everyone to be engaged in her pregnancy. So it's really weird. It's disgusting. But we work in close, proximity of one another. So I just put my earplugs on, and she'll just try to engage me. Hey, I went to the doctor today, and I'm like, oh, okay, I hope everything is okay. And then I try to go back to what I'm doing. But It's a toxic environment, and I'm just learning to say to myself, I'm, just observing, just really observing how white women are in the workplace. They're, I think the last time I commented, I was being partnered, so to speak, with a new white lady that started, and they were successful in trying to make sure that I helped her out. But once again, I just play like I don't know anything. I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty much new myself, so I'm not going to be too much help. And what I find with the lady that they partnered me with, she has a little bit of pride, I guess. So usually when she asks me a question, which is something I think she should know, she won't ask the other white women. She'll ask me because they got off to a bad start. So she'll ask me, and she doesn't want me to say it loud. In other words, she'll say, hey, do you know how to put the envelopes in the printer or something simple? And so I'll just repeat her question, like, okay, I just want to be clear. You want to know how to put the envelopes in the printer? And so she gets irritated, and I find that that's how I can get her to leave me alone, by repeating her question, because she's embarrassed to ask these questions. So I find, for me, playing ignorant, playing dumb, not knowing much, not trying to show off what I know, not trying to show that, I am competent. The one thing I have to my advantage is when I was working from home, a lot of the things that I have my mother also, she does the same line of work that I do in the legal field, and she works at another law firm. So whatever I don't know, I'm able to pick up the phone and call my mom, and, she's been doing the work that I'm doing many years, so I kind of have like this lifeline, so to speak, where whatever I don't know, she can help me. So I don't have to go to any of my coworkers, so to speak, for help. And what I find is even when I started, no one was helpful. No one wanted to, give me the simplest just things to make sure I was successful. But as they're hiring all the, the new white lady, and just I'm noticing they go overboard to train their own, and not interested in helping me as I started off. So that's all I wanted to share. I'll be more than willing to share as the weeks go on. But it's a toxic environment with white women. So I'll mute my line.
Fascinating. Wow. For one, mommies are great. That is, I'm hearing some. If you're on speakerphone or something of that nature, if you could mute, that would be grand. That's great. Mommies are great. That is awesome. If you have a parent or other family members that have some expertise in your field of employment where they can give you information that helps solve problems and what have you, that is spectacular. The quiet thing, that has come up for years on the program as people have become less confused about racism, and they stop just running off at the mouth on the job or in other environments and just being quiet, observing what's going on or what have you. It's, hey, that is a problem. Why aren't you talking? There was a sports game last night, or there was a new television program, or there was a new movie or something. I mean, hey, you got to be, chatting it up. We're not accustomed to having you all around here and not speaking. That's something that we've talked about, and even just trying to figure out strategies that can successfully neutralize that so it's not coming up as an issue. I think one of the things I try and say is to see if you can get conversation shifted back to the workplace. I know that's Mr. Fuller has recommended that for years. If they come up and they're, don't you remember Different Strokes, Little Arnold? Remember? Not really. Hey, they got that new printer down there. Do you know anything? Just seeing if you can go back to that. That way we are talking, but we're just not going to be talking about nonsense at all. Not gossiping. We're not doing the gossiping about other employees as well, because that's another one. They try to sidetrack you and get you in all that. See if you can get back to the conversation, and even if you can, it's even better if you can get back to the job where you're actually learning things about the environment, things that are going to help you do your job better, or just pertinent information that might be of some use down the road, even if it's not useful right now. But that's something that we've definitely talked about for years now on the program. People getting in trouble for not talking. And it sounds like you figured out that great codification there when the white woman asks you for information. repeating that's all. I just want to make sure that I'm clear about what I'm being asked, and her getting agitated, that being enough to leave you alone. Great strategy. Other folks can try that out if you're being pestered. Our folks are trying to just get information out of you or get you to kind of be their trainer on the job as they get up to speed, to then be promoted ahead of you and leave you as the custodial staff or something. Did folks have comments on what our caller in Michigan shared? Comments, observations? If not, if you have your own bits of workplace racism to share, feel free.
Can I be heard?
Yes, sir.
Yes, I would just say, not speaking on the last lady, but the one that you read about the non-white black coworker who basically was I'm trying to describe on exactly what that person was doing. Basically, the person was siding with the whites at the workplace on a daily basis, and basically criticizing her openly. I don't think that's going to change. Yes, she could make a decision to resign from the position. I don't think it's going to change. The only way that would change, from my experiences, is if the white people get tired of her. Then that would change immediately. Maybe from the standpoint of, okay, we're tired of her. We need another nigga to bounce off on, that sort of thing, patting us on the back in a racial way, anti-black way. They make that choice a lot. I recall on a job. So either that person would have to just have some real strong patience and ride it out on a daily basis. They've had to stay on the job. Some of us have to stay on jobs regardless of the torture that exists on a daily level. Either that or, like I think she said, resign and go somewhere else, because I don't think that's going to change at all. With my experiences with something like that, there were ways out of those type of situations, because on the fire department, if you have enough time, you can bid. They call it a bidding system, to where you can bid into whatever fire station that you would like to be at, and you're probably going to bid somewhere where you have people that you get along with. And I found myself in that situation for most of the time that I was on that job. Every day wasn't perfect, but it was a lot more pleasant on a daily basis than what that particular experience that was read. It wasn't on a daily basis. But one thing just came to my mind is cheating on tests, with promotions or whatever, that sort of thing. Non-white person attempting to do something like that is a quest for disaster. White people even control that that aspect of a job. Cheating as far as promotion tests or some sort of certification or whatever. They even control that. And for the most part, non-white black people are on the outside, even on the cheating aspect, and they do have their eye on you. That's for sure. Now, it may be a few non-white black people that they kind of like invest in and allow them to get through, like the person that you read about. But for the most part, I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it. Go ahead and study like you're supposed to do. Study for the test and do your best And if you didn't make it to where you wanted, go ahead and take it again. I've seen people who have tried several attempts, but they ended up accomplishing their goal. So they wouldn't. So as opposed to the other way of trying to cut a corner and whatever, and then now you not only can never get that promotion or that raise, you can get fired immediately. That just give white people an opening opportunity to get rid of you. So that would be my thoughts on that as far as that concerned. I personally made a decision not to want to get promoted because in most times in promotions you have to be responsible now for evaluating other people. And under the system of racist white supremacy in employment, they're going to have expectations of non-white black people in supervisory positions that they're going to have to be able to get at other black people. And that's all I have for right now. Thank you.
Appreciate that. Other folks that dialed in, we haven't heard from. If you had commentary you wanted to share, either on what we've heard from our callers thus far, retired firefighter, caller in Michigan, or the anecdotes that I read, feel free to chime in. If you dialed in, your line should be open.
Can I be heard?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Greetings to you, Gus, to the firefighter in Florida, and to all the callers and listeners. I wanted to first mirror what the firefighter said with the first incident that you read. That is a highly toxic environment. So I agree with him. The best bet is to literally find something else, and the better to try to find yourself a better situation. And again, if you can't, like he said, you're going to have to really just kind of buckle down and just try to take a path of least resistance, I would say. But it seems like there's nowhere to really hide in that environment. So I really feel sorry for you because I've been in those kind of toxic environments before, and it is debilitating. I wanted to say about the second one that you read. That was the one where they had a slave getting whipped, and it said, don't forget to do your timesheet or something like that?
Right.
Okay. Now, that's very interesting because I've always equated just about every employment situation that I've seen in this country is basically a slave environment as far as just the way that it runs. They run like plantations. Now, and I'll explain it using my company, and then I'll say what I believe this image is resonating with in me. Well, we take phone calls from members that have our insurance, and we assist them in navigating healthcare and getting optimum healthcare throughout their tenure with us as a member of our insurance. And we have a whole floor full of phones, and they call that area the field. You have supervisors who sit on their computer, and they monitor every minute of your day to make sure you're productive, identical to the overseers who ride the plantation on horses and basically make sure every minute of our ancestors' day was productive through brutalization. And what I found is what resonated with that image about them saying, don't forget to do your timesheet, and the person who's being whipped, black person who's being whipped like a slave, is that essentially your paycheck is now the whip. So if you're not doing things the way that they want you to do it, or if you're not putting in your time, essentially that is the subliminal whip. So they mess with your paycheck whenever you misbehave in some form or fashion, the same way the overseer would whip you to make you more productive when you were a slave on the plantation. And it seems to me like they're equating the paycheck with the whip in the way that I've thought about it, because the fact that they call in my company the phone area the field basically is identical to being in the field, and instead of picking cotton, we pick phone calls. We're basically dealing with members. So it's the same plantation setup. The difference is they change some of the verbiage, but the way that it works is that way. And I find that psychologically, that is what they utilize to get the most work out of you, is the threat of messing with your money in some form or fashion, whether it's being fired, whether it's being docked pay, or just even if you don't put in your time, because we used to have something when I worked at Comcast called ESS, which was employee self-service, where we had to go in electronically on the computer and put in our own time. And if we didn't get paid. If you missed a week that week, then your check would be a week short, and you'd have to wait another 2 weeks to get, that money that you missed the previous 2 weeks because you didn't put in that particular time for that week. So I understood it on that level, and I see it as kind of like a psychological thing where they're trying to utilize that same psychology that we're going to make you uncomfortable through your money the way that we used to make your ancestors uncomfortable through the whip. And lastly, my own workplace racism incident, weirdly enough, happened today. I had gotten a phone call from a white female. She refused to tell me any information about who she was so I can pull up her account to assist her, and she kept asking for a supervisor. So I said, well, I need information from you to pull up your account, and I would need to know why, you would need to talk to the supervisor. They need to have a reason. So she wouldn't tell me anything. She just actually said to me, my father is dying of cancer. He pays my premium for my account with you all electronically, and I need to speak to a supervisor. So she did that about 3 times. I said, well, you need to hold for a moment. So I put her on hold. I was attempting to get a supervisor, and she hung up. So she called back. I went to lunch. She called back. She got my coworker, who's also a black male. And when he got the call, she called him stupid. She did the same thing. She gave him her name, but when he asked her what she was calling for, she called him stupid and said she wouldn't. So he said she wouldn't tell him what she was calling for. She wanted a supervisor. So he said, well, if you keep talking to me in this manner, I'll be forced to release the call. So she went off. She said, well, can't you hear, I'm not going to tell you a so-and-so thing. And she was just going off on him. So he just hung up the call. Then the third person on our team got the call, who's a Latino female or Hispanic female. And when she got the call, the lady finally started talking to her. And she was on the phone with her for almost an hour. And what she found out was that the woman herself might have cancer as well, and that she was just in a psychologically stressed state due to the fact that her father's dying of cancer, and she herself now might also have cancer. So in my mind, I was gleeful. I said, well, I hope your father dies tonight in my head, and I hope you die tomorrow. But anyway, she turned around and she told me that essentially the woman's call had nothing to do with her paying for her bill, which is what she alluded to with me. It just had to do with her getting to a calm state so that she could actually get the assistance she needed. And it just goes to show you that white people, even in a situation where they might be on their deathbed, they can't help but be racist white supremacists, and somehow they get pleasure out of torturing black people even when they're suffering. So I wish they're dead, and that's pretty much my workplace racism scenario. Thank you so much for taking my call, guys.
Wow. Oh, yeah, swinging all the way. The report that I read, I believe it was last Saturday, which also would have qualified for workplace racism. It was in the Seattle Times about this white person in a mental institution, and he said he didn't want any niggers to come and work with him, and he had done this repeatedly about he didn't want black people working with him. Even deathbed, foot in the grave, mental state almost completely gone, they still, wait a minute, I might be half out of my mind, Alzheimer's, dementia, whatever. I still understand. That is a nigger, and that's what I'm supposed to be doing, is practicing racism. That does not seem to deviate at all. And Tim Wise actually said the same thing. But I'm not surprised at all. Death in the family, whatever. They never take vacations, no pause in the practice of white supremacy. And just to be accurate so people have the full context, you can actually see this image online. This is apparently, they have the some e-cards, right, where they just send these out as little jokes or whatever it is, that you can share them amongst your friends and what have you. But the image, it's of a person being whipped, and it said there are consequences to not doing your timesheets. That's the image, so you can see it. I posted it on my Twitter @UntilJustice, so you can see what it looks like. But yeah, I complete that is the dominant narrative. That is the dominant frame of reference for whites, is white supremacy brutalizing black people. So if we're looking for like a common denominator, that's what they've been saying about the Trump campaign the whole time, it's going to end up being racism frequently, predominantly. That's how we're going to relate to each other, practicing racism. So I'm not surprised at all. Whatever it is, going to be some metaphors, analogies incorporating white supremacy. If other folks had commentary on what they heard from Roz or any of our other callers, or if you have your own anecdotes you'd like to share.
I didn't get the Felicia joke, so can you explain that to me a little bit more?
It started in Friday. There was a character named Felicia, and I think Ice Cube's character at one point in the movie kind of disses her and says, "Bye, Felicia," or it's either Ice Cube's character or Chris Tucker. Anyway, the black female in the movie gets dissed, and "Bye, Felicia," that's the line, gets a big laugh, ha ha ha. So this gets resurrected in Straight Outta Compton, which came out last year, a big hit, where there is a different black female. I think they're at a hotel, and all of the band members go into the room, and they say the line as they go into the room, and they leave her outside the hotel room, and they say, "Bye, Felicia," and he gets a big laugh because obviously Ice Cube is being portrayed in the movie, and Friday, blah, 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 so he gets a big laugh. So I think people had been saying this before, just to be tacky and to mock black people in saying this, but after the Straight Outta Compton kind of resurrected it last year, white people have been saying it a lot over the past year or so since that came out. But that's where it's from. I think anybody, if you've seen either of those two films, I think it'll click immediately if you've seen those two films.
They also had a TV show by the same name.
Okay.
Yeah, it was like some comedy with two heavy-set black females, and it was called By Felicia. I think they helped people remodel their houses or something. I never watched it, but I saw commercials for it, and it irked my nerves every time I saw it. And this was on, I believe it was 2014 and possibly 2015, and maybe a little earlier than that. But it was on for a little while. So that's also, I think, how it carried over to now as well. But you're right. As I believe as that show got popular, I started to see more and more white people using that term in that derogatory manner, like you said.
Wow. Okay, I remember both of those scenes from the movie, so I just never, I guess I didn't equate it to white people, so wow. My quick anecdote here was, a few weeks ago I was in the bank, and the lady that was setting up the bank account for me, she told me a story about a coworker who was just fired because he took a picture with the vault open and a stack of money in his hands and posted it on Facebook or Instagram or whatever. And then the very next day, I guess, they monitor their social media so vigorously that the very next day they came in and they escorted him out the Bank of America and fired the guy. So, that social media is very, very important. And I'll mute my line for now. Thank you.
Again, you said this was a white person that did this?
No, it was a black male who did it, and it was a Latino female who told me the story.
Oh, okay. Thank you for the clarification. Yeah, that's what I thought. The clip that I played was a white person, but I'll just say again, if this is happening to white people, where they're being transferred or fired or whatever it is, there will be no hesitation for a black person doing anything on there. So absolutely be extremely careful with the social media. And I wouldn't even have social media in my name if I was on a job. That way, if you have an account, you can share what you want, and it's not going to be traced. But it would not trace back to my name. The email that you use for your job, like I wouldn't even let them know that you have a social media account. Just tell them I don't do any of that stuff, and you can come up with a logical explanation. My parents didn't allow me to have an account, or I started seeing people getting in trouble, so I just never got involved with any of that stuff. Any excuse you need to come up with as to why you don't do it. But yeah, I wouldn't have anything connected to my real name to kind of minimize any of those problems popping up.
Can I speak to that too, briefly, Gus?
Sure.
I was going to say, for whatever state that you're living in, you should check what their laws are regarding companies asking for your social media, because I know in New Jersey it's actually illegal for them to ask for that information, but I still don't trust them anyway. I don't have any social media. But beyond that, certain states make it illegal for companies to ask you for that information. So you should maybe check what your state laws are in regards to that in case, because I believe it, even in Jersey, they will violate that and look anyway. And I don't have it, but just in case, I would say just check the law, because if something like that does happen where it comes back to haunt you in any way, then at least if the laws are against it in your state, then they have basically broken the law at that point, and you have a lawsuit that you can, move forward with. So I just wanted to put that out there. Thank you.
Other folks who dialed in that we have not heard from, if you had commentary on workplace racism, you should be with us.
Good evening. Can I be heard?
Yes, sir.
Yes. I had a few stories about workplace racism. Typically, the white people on my job are extremely refined. So, you have to have a pretty good ear to hear the racism that they practice. But a white male was doing some work around the office, and he had a tape measure, and he was kind of messing around with it. He wasn't actually measuring something, and I walked in, and I just kind of like, yeah, what are you doing? And he was like, oh, just I was measuring something. And then he had the tape measure at a certain length, and then he, I guess, opened it up to where it was a little longer than what he previously had it. And then he said, is this you? And pretty much, referring to kind of like penis size or whatever, or length or whatever. And he said, I'm pretty sure this is you. He opened it up longer and kind of, laughed about it. And that was one incident. White people, I know it's white males especially, I say white females as well. They always have white males have like a homoerotic type of thing with black males where I guess they feel intimidated or something, and they always want to make jokes about penis size or whatever. The same white male also, and I kind of did an experiment with this because a lot of the white males that, when they really don't know the difference between the black males that they supervise, so they always get their next black male, another black name, whatever you all guys are saying. But the white male was telling me that him and another white male were always getting mixed up, and they were being called each other's names. And then I said, hey, yeah, you guys both have real low haircuts, and you guys kind of do. I can see where that happens. I said that to him, and he said, oh, my God, so are you trying to say that all white people look alike, all white males look alike? That's kind of racist. He said that to me. So, of course, jokingly, but, there's always some truth to these jokes. And also there's a white female on my job, and there's a younger African, a black male that's from Africa, and he's somewhat timid. He's not very outspoken. He tends to smile a lot, but he's very I consider a good worker, very smart young male, but he smiles a lot. And then the white female was coming to me like, he doesn't do anything around here. All he does is smile. And I kind of told her like, hey, he works pretty hard around here. So, but typically with white people, it doesn't matter if you're smiling, if you have a smirk on your face, you're angry or whatever. They don't like what you're doing regardless, because they're pretty much practicing racism all the time. And that's all I have for now. I think I had one more story, but if it comes to my mind, maybe if we have time, I'll bring it up. But typically, white people are always practicing racism. If they're more refined, they're going to do it, in subtle manners. But and they always are thinking about race all the time. So That's all I have. Thank you.
Welsing moment for sure. Definitely gets to the genital level with lightning speed for just something to think about. I mean, that's one of those where you might not need to say anything, and I definitely encourage folks that frequently not saying anything will work. A lot of times there is something that you can say that'll be constructive, that will solve problems for you and not cause any more problems. But a lot of the times, the best thing to do is to not say anything, to maybe make a record of what was said or what was done, date, time, all of that. But a lot of times the best policy would be to say nothing. But that sort of instance, one thing that did come to mind when he had the tape measure thing, it was like, oh, is this you? I'm talking about penis size. I was even thinking it could almost be said in a joking manner, like, I think that was covered in our sexual harassment training, or I think this sort of thing was covered in our sexual harassment training, just because that does seem like the type of thing that might be covered in sexual harassment training if we're talking about other people's genitals and what have you, and penis size, that, that might be something that a lot of folks would consider that is not suitable for workplace, not exactly ideal workplace conversation. Maybe we should be talking about something more constructive. But again, the best policy might not be to say anything, but it is something to think about just in case you, because sometimes they'll start out with a little bit of tackiness just to see what will be tolerated, and then it will just accelerate from there. But just something that came to mind while you were sharing.
And I absolutely agree. They take, I guess, they put out a little, just to see how you respond, and then they gradually increase the levels of racism that they practice. And but typically, depending on how refined they are, they tend to, they'll leave it, pretty much open to where they'll say, hey, I wasn't referring to, you're the one that's thinking sexually, I was talking about something else or anything. So they'll always have something to fall back on in case, you do call, I guess kind of call them on their racism or even sexual harassment. But the more refined ones will find a way to have some type of escape route, so to speak. But I absolutely agree.
I think I would have got real serious when the guy called you, he was referencing you to be a racist. That, like, just as serious as they get, if you call them a racist, like, oh my God, what are you trying to say? Like, I mean, I've never, I just probably would have played it that way. And I used to work somewhere a long time ago, and it was it was a few black guys and mostly whites, but it was a very open place where you spoke openly, and everyone was joke. It was a long time ago, and this is before the movie even came out. It was two white guys who decided that they were both going to take rulers and measure each other, and pull them out to see which one. And it'll be unbelievable. And I didn't think about it again until years later. I saw the movie Step Brothers, and they did the same thing. But they use rulers for more than what they just measuring things, if you know what I'm saying.
For sure. I will encourage again, if we do have entrepreneurs, folks that are, as they call it, self-employed, definitely dial in. If you have experiences, what you share, things that are helping you stay in the black, as they say, making dough for yourself. I've said consistently, people have said, or they speak as though if you go into business for yourself, that will solve all of your problems with workplace racism. That is not true. I have seen that up close and personal. If we have folks who are self-employed, certainly love to hear your experiences and how you are experiencing workplace racism, if at all, and things that you are encountering being self-employed. But other folks, if we haven't heard from you, if you have commentary, things you want to share based on what you've heard from callers already, or if you have your own experiences, feel free.
May I be heard?
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, this is Akua calling from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And I had 2 incidents in one day with the same white terrorist. The first one, he was adjusting his belt, and me and another black female, we were standing outside, we were waiting to get our routes, and he was adjusting his belt, and he said, wouldn't it be something if somebody took a picture right now with these 2 ladies right here standing in front of me? And me and her just looked at each other and just, like with disgust. And then later on that afternoon, I had to ride with him to go and pick up one of our other vehicles. And I got in the truck with him, and the dispatcher was going in, but he called another white male dispatcher. He called him out to the truck just to say to him, if the truck is a rocking, don't come a knocking. That's what he tells this white dispatcher. And I said right away, there won't be any knocking in this truck while I'm in here. I was just like so disgusted, and I was just so glad that the place that we were going to was like less than 5 minutes away. But yeah, that's the kind of stuff that I've been dealing with. And soon I'm going to try to file some kind of suit or try to see what the next steps are, what I can do, because it's the 2 latest ones. And thank you for listening.
Lots of sexual harassment coming up today, which is not a surprise. I think people had said before that they thought that should be popping up during workplace racism, because they thought that's a major aspect of how non-white people are terrorized in this environment. But yeah, that sort of thing, I would try to be pretty serious, because we've heard people talking about that before. I think it was a lady up in upstate New York, where she was saying she was on a job previously, and some racist dude pulled his pants down and actually showed his genitalia on the job to her, and nothing was done about it. She went to try to report that this happened, and it wasn't. No one took it seriously, and of course, no punitive action taken, nothing like that. So that's something. I mean, we should all be worried. That's why I said, like, there should be lots of dialogue around workplace racism. We should be looking for some sort of codification, things that can stop that sort of thing from happening, even if it's not ideal, where the person isn't arrested or terminated or what have you. At minimum, to get that sort of thing to stop immediately and never happen again. So, and even the remarks, even if it doesn't get to the creator forbid, it gets to the level that what lady had to experience. But even those sort of remarks and what have you, like none of that, like just figuring out what we can do just in terms of words to stop that. That's why I said before, like just go into their policy. That's why I always recommend as well, what is the policy state? Because nowadays, with everything that's happening around LGBT rights and all the scandals of people having affairs and stuff with coworkers, a lot of places, I would submit in most places, they have policy on, sexual harassment and what can be said. Like, as much as possible, try to go exactly to the policy. Boom, boom, boom. Okay. Rule 189B says, boom, boom, boom. Does this qualify? To just stop that immediately. I think, as Thomas in New York just said, being real serious about that. I know some people, being honest, I mean, you a lot of times don't get help under the system of racism, white supremacy, and white people don't take things seriously. But that's at least something we should be trying to brainstorm to figure out what we can do to shut that stuff down immediately, because that is nothing to joke about at all. Did you take note? Because I know you said you might be filing a suit. Did you document everything that was said, date, time, all that good stuff?
Yes, I've been documenting everything. I've been documenting and writing down every single incident, time, everything, even with the guy who told me about the two niggers in the truck, all of that. I've documented all of that. I have a notebook that I use for all of that, or I put it on my phone so I can, after an incident happens, I can put it on my phone right away so I know, I have the correct date and time when everything occurs.
Outstanding.
So, yeah, I've been doing that. Thanks.
With the incident, I guess, where he was adjusting his belt and it was you and I guess another female was standing there, it might even be good if she, and I mean, again, this is just suggestion, but might even be good if she was there, if she can write up, even if it's just for you personally or to verify this is what happened, all of that, just to have documentation that this did happen, because that, again, that sort of thing is serious, and it doesn't have to be, filing a suit, but I just want to be clear that this did happen, and I didn't think that this sort of thing was appropriate, thinking of the way that I would try to handle it. I didn't think that this sort of thing should be happening in the workplace. I thought it was serious, and I made a note of what happened, what was said, in case anything like this ends up recurring, because I don't think we should be having to deal with this on a work environment on a regular basis. We should feel safe. We should feel comfortable. We shouldn't, be subjected to somebody making those kind of lewd, inappropriate comments to also get her to verify what was said. That way you have two records of that incident that are saying the same thing about what this tacky white dude did.
Okay, I guess I was thinking, like, I didn't really want to involve, like, any other, black people, because there's so few black people there already. But I guess I was just thinking we documented it, write it down, and then I'm going to report it. I thought that might be good enough. But I guess I will maybe ask her to write something out for me that she did witness that. So that might be a good idea. Thanks much.
Just a thought. Always encourage independent. Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
Oh, I just wanted to offer a suggestion as well to the female caller. What I do, I don't know what type of phone you have. A lot of times I use my voice memo on my, I have an iPhone, and it's amazing. Like, a lot of times when I'm just sitting at work, I'll just hit the voice memo record, because within 20 to 45 minutes within each hour, I mean, the conversations that take place in my environment, it's tacky and trashy. And so I heard you say, in certain circumstances, you're riding in the car with this white man, without, saying anything. I would just record the ride, and just see what happens. I know for me, a lot of times, it's, you have to remember what happened and jot down the notes. But if you are recording it, just put your phone in your purse and hit your voice memo. You'd be surprised what what you hear. Because I was just like, let me just, record the day from the good morning to the time, maybe an hour worth of, just the day, in the office, an hour's worth of recording. And it was just the conversations that take place. And I'm just, I go back and listen. I'm like, wow, it's interesting. So you'd be surprised if you record it, you would have at least something that you can reference. It's just a suggestion. Yes, I have recorded some conversations, but it's like now, like everything that's happening is starting to affect me mentally. So like I have my headphones on most of the time because I don't even want to hear, because of the conversations that they have are like just so disgusting, and I don't even want to have that in my head or in my mind while I'm trying to work. So I don't even want to record. I don't even want to hear it. It's like cringing, like coming in there to, I have to go I drive. So I have to be inside for a little while. In the morning we have to get our routes, and then we get to go. So I don't have to be around them anymore. But it's like, in the morning or when we're done with our route, we have to come back in to the lab or something like that. I try to have my headphones on because conversations are just so disgusting, and mentally it is like messing with me. So I don't even know if I can even like deal with even recording none of that mess.
Could I speak on the subject?
Yes, sir.
Yes, the particular case kind of like reminds me from work experience. It sounds like that worker is a psychotic predator, and I said that because just like a wild animal, they can pick up on body language from their victims. And I'm not making a case with females. They can spot males as well as females as far as the person to pick on and mistreat. It's obviously you've been going through some heavy mistreatment, and I think probably the only solution is to immediately make it known that from here on, that everything that you have contact with me on, either this can be done through your supervisor, anything that you have contact with me on within the job is going to be viewed and understood, and if anything goes inappropriate, it's going to be reported. Now, even if it's a white person, in most cases on a job, they have to be able to be in a position to absorb that information that work gives them, because it'll end up coming back on them if they don't. Is what I'm saying. There's no guarantees to it, as far as that's concerned. But I'm just saying that in my mind would be the thing to do. I would say, I could be wrong, but if I would say it may be a good idea, well, what is it about my body language and whatnot is why this person is picking me out of all of these people on this job and constantly sending me through this on a daily basis. And like I said, I'm not making a distinction with females, because I've seen it happen with males also, to whereas a male on another fire department, the city of Miami Fire Department, ended up with a penis on the top of his head. Because it starts off subtle, and then once that person sees that, okay, I got away with that, they're going to keep on. It's going to be more and more of a daring situation. A lot of cases, the person will be encouraged by other people to do it, and they will constantly make someone, and in this case, it's probably you, a target in that case, to whereas, like I said, it has to be something to be made known that everything that you say and do in my company, whether we're in the car together or whatever, I'm gonna be either filming it or whatever that person that you have to do in order to get that recognized. Because that's not the only thing that will stop that person. In the meantime, I hope I'm making some kind of sense. Thank you.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Just on the escalation piece, even from the belt situation, where he was doing that, and if whatever it is, if the truck or the van or if the vehicle is rocking, don't come a knocking. Even just telling that person directly, like, firmly, as they say, with some bass in your voice, in no uncertain terms, do not ever speak to me in that manner ever again. Extremely clear. Write out, and you can write down what he said right in front of you, but just make that clear, because I totally agree. I think that's the second time at least that's come up on the I think the male caller we were talking to before, there tends to be an escalation with this sort of thing. With racism in general, but particularly the sexual things, that's just, in my opinion, that's not anything that should be taken lightly at all, because that just tends to be, just as firefighter just said, got away with that, we'll try this next time around, and then we'll try this that time around. It's just not the sort of thing that should be minimized at all, like extremely said, which, like I think you started off by saying that you were looking at a lawsuit. It sounds like you are correctly taking this seriously, but even just letting him know directly, do not ever speak to me that way again, ever. As long as we work together, as long as I know you, do not ever talk to me like that again. Is this person like your supervisor, or are you all, as they say, on the same level in the company?
Yeah, we're both drivers.
Oh, okay.
So he's not a supervisor or anything, but they talk like this, like to each other. They talk like this all the time at work. So it's just, like I said, that's why I have my headphones on all the time, because I can even remember even months even before that, I went into the break room and this same gentleman was in the break room, and they were I came in and sat down, and he started talking about menage a trois, and I just got up and I left because I didn't even want to hear that. He wasn't talking to me. He was talking to the other white people that were in the break room too. So once that conversation started, I got up and I left. So, but he's a driver just like I am. He's not my supervisor or anything. But he didn't say the statement. He didn't say that statement to me. Like I said, he called the dispatcher from inside back outside to say that to him while I was in the truck with him.
Can I ask a question?
I had a question. Go ahead, Synopsis.
I just one look. Do you have to ride with him?
We usually ride by ourselves, but there was another car that was in the shop for repairs. So they usually, whoever is the first people to come back from a route or whatever, me and him had came back around the same time. So they just chose us to go and pick up the other car. He dropped me off to go pick up the other car. That was how it was. But I never drive with him. We drive by ourselves. It was just that particular day we had to, we were the first two to come back, so they chose us to go and pick up the car that needed repair.
Well, because I would never find myself in another vehicle with him again, even if I have to catch a bus back to the job, whatever, a cab or whatever. I would never find myself in a vehicle with him in life again.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I go back to work tomorrow. I was off today. I go back tomorrow, so that's when I was gonna do what I had to do, starting this, because I'm, like I said, it's sickening. It just makes me sick. Just hearing it, just thinking about it, just going in and knowing like they're gonna be having a disgusting conversation. Like it never fails.
I had two quick questions. The first one was, are you seeing anyone like a mental health practitioner for the anxiety that you're experiencing, so that it's documented as well?
Oh, I think she might have got knocked off the line. When she dials back in, she's able to ring us right back. I'll just bring her back on the line, and you can pose your question again.
No problem.
Let's see. Might take her a second to reconnect. I'll just keep an eye on the switchboard so that she can dial back in, and that'll be our question on the table when she comes back with us. In the meanwhile, other folks who dialed in that we have not heard from, if you had commentary that you wanted to add, feel free.
Can I be heard?
Yeah, can I be heard?
I guess we'll get our call.
Oh, okay. Go ahead, Gus. I'm sorry.
I guess we'll get our caller in Florida, and then we'll nab the other gentleman.
Yes, greetings to Gus, the host, the listeners, and callers. I had quite a bit of incidents and reports, so I'll just try and go through them clear and as concise as possible. Speaking on that by Felicia trend, I have heard that last year a lot on the job, so I'll start off with that one for number one. And I think the interesting thing is the way that I caught on to it was that there is a black female with that name, on the job. So a lot of the younger white people in my department would be parting away from her saying that, like, you know, bye Felicia. So I'm like, wait a minute, you know, something seems odd about that. And I guess they might have gotten it from a TV show, I started to think. And she didn't seem, I guess, bothered by it. Maybe she, you know, she might be confused. So, you know, because I was thinking, dang, you know, it might be practicing racism. And I'm thinking something they would say in response to me if I would have asked them that. Oh, well, that is her name. What are you talking about? No, of course I wouldn't. I would not do such a thing. I think they would give me that kind of response. So that was number one. Number two, I was in the break room and we was watching, I think, Millionaire, like a game show for lunch or whatever. And like they present the questions and things like that. So it's an older lady that works upstairs, and I forgot what the question was about, but I was reading the names. Like I think one was like Hugo Chavez and Che Guevara and all of that. And I don't think I got the correct answer, but you know, she turned around and she says, you know what, you surprised me with how much you know. You know, being at such a young age, that is very incredible. And the white girl that was sitting in front of me said, yeah, you know, he does know. So I didn't respond. I was just looking at the TV because she didn't ask the question. So number three, there was another conversation. We was watching the TV in the same break room, and the white male, he asked me, because like I think it's a car commercial or something where this black female comedian is on there, and she pulls up next to a white man and asks him, oh, you know, what's your number? And I guess like white people, I guess, might have put this black female on TV or on the commercial, I guess to be funny or entertaining. So he looks at me and he asks me, is that the kind of woman you want? So I responded and I said, why would you ask me that? So he said, well, I guess I was thinking that's the kind of woman you might want. And next commercial comes on, and it's about a fortune teller, a lottery commercial, and she's trying to come on to the guy, like both of them white people. So I asked him, I said, I wonder why they have the female with a certain kind of aesthetic, you know, trying to come on to the guy. And she doesn't look like, you know, another type of female from this commercial. And I think what I was referencing was a white woman in another commercial. Then he asked me again, he said, oh, he said, well, is that the kind of woman you want? And I said, no, I was trying to make a comparison. So that was interesting, you know, going into that sex area. So number four was, like you was just talking about the Facebook and the social media, like the racism that's on there. There's a white person, like a white female on the job. She had posted up something on there about a David Banner video, like called Blackfish, and like on the beginning of it, it's got like a white cop having a rope put around his neck or something. And, you know, she made a comment on it saying that, well, you know, what's the world coming to? And, you know, David Banner is a disgrace to the human race. And he said, well, if you don't promote violence, why would you have it in your video? Hashtag All Lives Matter. And, you know, the supervisor and her are friends. And she says, you know, well, nothing will be done about it because he's quote unquote black. Like she had black in quotes. And then he said in another comment, you know, this is disgusting. And he even used President Obama's name. He said, President Obama is just trying to start a race war. And, you know, he got like about 4 or 5 thumbs up. So so I go in there and I ask him about it the next day. Well, not about that in particular. I asked him, is there anything wise you want to say, like any kind of constructive information you want to help out for the employees, you know, something for us to keep in mind. And he says, you know what, I seen something last night. And then he brought that up. He says, you know, it was a white cop, and, you know, I guess the guy might have been in support of Black Lives Matter. And he was saying, you know, he didn't really much like it. And then she told me to just go and look on her page, but they don't know that I had already seen it. So they visibly appeared upset about it. So, you know, I went and listened to the song, and I actually enjoyed the song, but the song didn't speak about them doing any harm to race soldiers or whatnot. So, yeah, and I can't remember no, actually I do. One last one was we was talking about the Confederate flag, and I guess he was trying to downplay like the white supremacist historical relevance of that. And he was saying, well, you know, Planned Parenthood, he said he read a meme that said Planned Parenthood has killed more black people than the Confederate flag. And he asked me, do I know what eugenics is? And I said, you know, I heard of it before. And he says, well, you know, Margaret Sanger, and she wanted to do this to the black community. I mean, like, you know, like, can't be ignorant, you know. And, you know, like the health department is on this side of town and proximity next to black people, you know. I mean, he just revealing all kind of stuff. But I'm thinking he doing it just so he can save face about the Confederate flag. So I found that interesting. That's all that I have for now.
Sound like he read Medical Apartheid. Fascinating. Fascinating. Wow. Our caller, I thought she dialed back in. Well, she did dial back in, but it looks like she might have got disconnected again. The caller that was in Milwaukee, the female that was having the sexual harassment problems on the job. So if she dials back in again, then I'll get her back on so that Roz, he had his 2 questions. Oh, looks like she might be back with us. I know he had his 2 questions on board, so we can conclude with that. And if anybody that dialed in and we didn't get your hand or we missed you, just dial in, be patient. I know there's some folks who haven't got to share it all, and we'll be sure to nab you as well. Thank you for being patient. The caller in Milwaukee, you should be back with us. So Roz had 2 questions for you. If you want to ask your question again, Roz.
Yes, I was going to ask, because actually I was writing it down and I forgot the first one. Do you remember what I said or the gist of it?
Mental health professional.
Oh, yes. Thank you. Thank you. First, I just like to say I'm sorry for what you're going through, and I wish you the best. But my first question is, have you been seeing a mental health practitioner in regards to the anxiety that you're experiencing as a result of this? So there's a record of that as well?
No, I haven't. I just talked to my family about the situation. I haven't talked to anybody professionally.
Okay. If you're there long enough, depending on how things move forward, that might be something you want to consider, because if you have that sort of mental health practitioner, those visits on record as a result of what you're going through at your job, that will bolster any sort of lawsuit, you know, that you might want to put forth against them. The other thing is, I totally agree with the firefighter. With what I've noticed with white people and sexual deviance is that they have very serious issues with impulse control. So the more that they feel they can get away with, the more vulgar they will be, including like physical things. So definitely, you know, you want to jump on that ASAP, and I think you're already doing so. But my other question was, is there anything in your employee handbook about conduct on the job as far as relations between employees and sexual harassment that you can also utilize? Because I think you said you were going to take care of or start moving forward with what you want to do tomorrow. But if you had the employee handbook, if there's something in there related to sexual harassment or on-the-job conduct between employees, you can also utilize their own information, essentially, to facilitate what you're moving forward with. Thank you.
They have a 1-800 number, like for if you can call anonymously or whatever. Most of the things about their policies and all that is online. The only thing like I got when I was hired was just like a description of what it is that the drivers do and things like that. So I'm going to have to go online to get the actual policy. But like I said, there is a 1-800 number that you can call and you can report incidents. You can do it anonymously or something, or you can't tell them your name or whatever. So I was my thing tomorrow. I was gonna go on the computer at work and get the policy, or either ask the human resources there for the policy if I can copy it off the computer, and then go and talk to my supervisor right after that to tell him what has been going on and how it's in a violation of their own policy, because I'm sure they have a policy like that, since they do have a 1-800 number for people to contact them anonymously if they're having issues with sexual harassment.
And the thing I was saying with the mental health practitioner is always good, because it'll also let them know the seriousness of the situation, because it's having a mental health impact on your ability to perform your job or even feel comfortable coming to work. So that is something they would have to immediately address for those reasons beyond the legal stuff, but the legal stuff will definitely get them moving. Thank you. I wish you all the best.
Thank you. And I apologize for earlier. The line I got disconnected somehow, and I tried to call in a couple of times after that, and the call kept dropping, so I don't know what's going on with the phone. But thank you.
There we go. No apologies necessary. I'm glad you were able to reconnect. Folks, we have not heard from, I think the caller at 0889, I was going to get to him, but I'm not seeing you on the line. Like I said, there were several folks. I'm not ignoring folks. I'm just trying to go down the line in the order that people dial in as I'm adding folks to. But people that we have not heard from, if you're on the line, feel free.
Can I be heard?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Greetings to everyone on the line. I recently re-entered the workforce after a stint of unemployment, and I find myself again in a situation of working somewhere with predominantly non-white, so-called black individuals, and like a few white individuals thrown in. I am still in training, so I haven't really gotten to see a lot of the environment that I will be in. However, I have already had instances occur with the white people that work there. One being with the white male. He referred to an object at work as Sambo. And another incident with the white female, which was kind of, I don't know the correct way to kind of describe her behavior, but sort of a passive-aggressive remark regarding my natural hair. So, yeah, I've kind of already seen a little bit of the environment that I'll be involved in again, which is typical for the line of work that I'll be in, but I'll try to take notes and report more in the future. I actually called in tonight to have a request of sorts for suggestions for anyone on the line who has worked previously in predominantly or currently in predominantly non-white, particularly so-called black environments, in ways to definitely minimize conflict. Yeah, so if anyone has any suggestions on that, I'd really appreciate hearing them.
Wow. Do you remember what the comment the white chick made about your natural hair?
It's kind of involved, it's kind of like I don't really want to share because it's kind of the way I perceived it. It's not like she said anything outright. It's just what her actions and what she said following her actions. But yeah, it's just something that I personally took as like, took note of. But it's not really kind of worth sharing. It's just taking note of the person that I'll be working with.
Duly noted. Duly noted. It's my experience, whites do a lot of that as well. The subtext, I think a lot of people have saying things in a way so that nobody can say, hey, she didn't call you a nigger. It's not anything flagrantly racist, but there's a lot of nonverbal communication or things that are not, things that are implied within the communication that if you understand racism, white supremacy, you get what's being communicated. You get the totality of what is being conveyed. I can give a tip on working in an environment that is either exclusively black people or predominantly black people. More non-verbal communication, and when I say that, doing more things where it's writing down communiques between people so that I'm not having to talk to this person directly. For me, that minimized a lot of conflict, and I know everything cannot be written, either email or text or whatever it is. I understand that, but at least for me, that was one thing that did help minimize a lot of conflict, where it reduced the amount of us having to talk to each other, because it was just conflict everywhere, because this particular environment, it was just, rife with disrespect and anti-blackness. That was one. And then just doing a lot of minimizing contact when I did not have to be around other people to get my job done, and or locating spots where I could do whatever I needed to do and not have to be in direct contact with anybody else. Those are things that I tried to employ on a regular basis, because it just seemed like even when, things were pleasant and there was no strife, it did not take much for things to become extremely volatile. So just to try to avoid all that, I tried to minimize the amount of time that I spent being in direct contact, particularly with larger groups. Now, if it was one or two people, I could do that a little bit better. But once it started to be larger numbers of people, and when I say larger, I mean like 5 and up, then it was like, oh, okay, I need to be, because this is going to get into the name calling and all the other stuff, and I do not want to be in. This was before I even had an understanding of racism and codification. I was just doing that intuitively because it seemed to help. But those are two things that worked well for me. Any other folks have suggestions on working with predominantly black people?
I wanted to get a little clarification on the context of her contact with them. If it is a big group, is it a small group? Is that person your supervisor, so you have to have some sort of contact with them? Or is it someone who's, let's say, a coworker on the same level as you that you might be able to, like Gus said, avoid? I just wanted to get a little more clarity on that.
Okay. This is more of a preemptive thing. It is a large group. You kind of see everyone, but we work individually, like separate from each other. With actual, performance of our job duties is individual. So that part is good. But it's just general contact of, in the break room, dealing with supervisors, which majority of them are so-called black, and the white female that I spoke of earlier. She's the other supervisor. It's just kind of like a preemptive thing as I'm getting back into the workforce and re-entering working with predominantly non-white people. I was just hoping to get some suggestions, general suggestions,
Sure.
to keep in mind as I continue employment. No, go ahead.
I'm sorry for interjecting. I wanted to ask if where you work, if you have a vehicle, because maybe what you can do is on your breaks actually leave the building and go into your car, so you can kind of isolate yourself in a more protected environment away from everyone, and that way when they do see you, it's all about work. In other words, you're not spending your break in that work break room kind of environment, if that's possible for you.
Okay. Yep, that would be possible, and I will keep that in mind. Thank you.
Any other suggestions on working exclusively with black people? I guess another one I would add, seems like you might be doing some of this already, but it seems a lot of people that listen to the C.O.W.S, they have gotten in trouble thinking that these black people were going to be down for them. They were going to be, all in because they're black people. I would not be thinking that way at all. That unfortunately the system of white supremacy has done a job on us. The anti-blackness is very high, and we just frequently end up having very non-constructive contact with one another. And I think if you can kind of already have that going, at minimum, you'll be surprised. Like, you can be pleasantly surprised if it is great and everyone is wonderful to you and trying to be helpful and all that. That is great, and you can be sincerely appreciative as you are surprised by the wonderful treatment. But if it doesn't work out that way, then at least for me, I'm not disappointed. And since I already kind of expected this, at least for me, it can help me be a little bit more patient and not as frustrated, because I didn't have high hopes that this was going to go well. Like, I was already thinking that, the system of white supremacy has set things up. It's designed for us to be at each other's throats and for this to not work out well. So just kind of already have that in mind so that you're not, I guess, not putting yourself in position to be let down by, disastrous conduct by these other black people that you're working with. Victims of racism they are.
Yeah, I learned that at my previous employment, so definitely won't make that mistake again.
Also, I was going to say, too, try to say as little about yourself and your personal life as possible. Keep it as work-related as can be as far as contact with other people. If there's conversations about, like, empire and nonsense in the break room, because you'll have to go, I don't know if you pass that area on your way back to your desk, whatever, from break. But in those environments, just, hey, I don't know what you're talking about. If anyone asks a question, I don't watch television like that. And just try to stay to yourself as much as possible and say as little about yourself as possible.
I would just say with my experiences, when Chief Phillips came on the program, he basically explained it in his book. With the fire department, because of its history of being very racist in terms of hiring and promotion practices. During most of the time when I was on the fire department, which was slightly after Chief Phillips, it still was a lot of racism involved. So, and I heard Mr. Fuller speaking about something similar when he was talking about during the Jim Crow era, black folks primarily was all in the same boat, so they had a better relationship with one another. Well, it was basically the same thing on the fire department. So for the most part, the experiences were positive. Because we all were in the same boat. We basically knew each other, and in a lot of cases, you were involved with that person, sometimes socially, but in my case, also politically. I was involved with several other firefighters when we weren't working on that job. We were still working within the black community itself. So and at one point in time, we planned to, and we succeeded in bidding all into one fire station together. So I'm pretty sure that the fire station itself was bugged because there was a lot of activity going on with us within that fire station. They had a nickname for these type of gatherings. They call them soul patrols. That's what the name was put on it, and I'm pretty sure it was put on it by white people. But nevertheless, like I said, most of the experiences that I had in that type of environment were positive. It was basically you can relax a little bit more because of the content of who was there, and as I mentioned before, because the environment was still in general hostile, and it was very few of us. I would say it was probably less than 110 at the time when I first got on. As far as that concerned, as far as non-white black people, out of maybe 1,500 to 2,000 when I first got on, and the hiring practices are still very low, and promotion is still very low right now. So that's what I have to say about that aspect. Thank you.
been my experience. You don't get in trouble for being quiet around black people. It's not the same. It's not the same response as being quiet around white people, where it's a problem and you could get written up or in trouble. I have not had that problem. They might just note like, oh, such and such, she's really quiet. And that'll be about it. It will not be a problem when you'll face write-ups. At least that has not been my experience. Any other suggestions for working around mostly black people?
Hello?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, yeah. My comment for the young lady, in my experience as a black woman working around other black people, especially other black women, I noticed that we tend to name call each other. Like black women may call each other huzzy or heifer or the B word. Some of us even use the N word around each other. So I don't know if the young lady has experienced that on the job as well, working with other blacks. But just keep that in mind and, think ahead of, what your response might be to them. If you may want to ask them not to call you such names. But I noticed that kind of name calling is commonplace. Yeah, that's what I wanted to contribute. Thank you.
Good night. I'm sorry. Can I be heard?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, great. Yes. So I was the one that sent that image. So
right. The lashing for people that are listening.
Right, the lashing image.
Right.
So that image is posted where it's like almost like a bulletin board. So it has like employees' birthdays there. It has like if somebody gets sick or if somebody's on vacation or something like that. So that's where that image is. And I saw it, and I'm like, this is offensive. I'm like, this is pretty offensive. But I was like, is this something that I should report, or should I let it stay there? Because the environment where I work at, they're very, very, very codified. They don't even talk about, like, I don't even hear they use the word like a black man or a black woman. They don't even use those terms. They don't even talk about white, black. They don't even talk about like race at all at my job. And where I work, I'm the only black person in my department. So I was just curious if I even went to HR, if all eyes would be on me, and they would start acting like even more. I don't want to say it now. Like more blatantly racist, because they're racist. Like for example, they had a Christmas dinner, and I had sat next to this white male, and we there talking because I'm vegan, he was vegan, and we're talking about vegan food and stuff like that, and I don't know how the conversation drifted, but he had seen like my boyfriend come and drop me off at work a couple of times, and he made some example, like he made a comment saying like, what am I doing with that boy toy? And I said to him, that's not what he is. And then he said, that's how you have to talk nowadays. And I call my wife a girl toy. And they do that, and then they also treat me like I'm stupid, like I don't know anything. So that was my thing. I don't know if it was something I should report or I should let it stay up. I wanted to stay up so I can be reminded, like this is their mindset, because it can be very deceiving the way they interact with you, that you don't think like that's how they think. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, that's what I wanted to share.
My vote would be for letting it stay up. big for making sure that I have lots of reminders about the environment in which I am in so that I can stay codified and not relax and think everything is cool. I also think if they are as refined as you say, in terms of we don't even bring up race, we don't talk about anything, if you look at the image, I suspect they probably say, like, you know, what they might even just say immediately, oh, my gosh, we didn't even think of that. It was so sorry. And thinking that they might do that. I could also see them saying, well, hey, this isn't a black person. This is not about, you know, enslaving black. This is a white person being beaten here. You know, this is not suggesting anything racial or suggesting anything about beating black person because, you know, it's not like in the image if people look at it, it doesn't. I don't think most people would look at that and say, oh, I think this is a black person being beaten. I think a lot of people, I could see how they might say that this is a white person. The coloring on it makes it look like a white person, so I could see them taking that angle too. But it wouldn't surprise me if they just immediately, we'll take it down right now, and we're so sorry, we'll get you a free latte, and, you know, let's all go back out and have a great day, and we apologize profusely.
I have one more thing to share. When I just started working at that job, right, what I do there is, like, I'm in electronics, so, like, I do soldering and, like, testing and stuff like that. So when I just got to the job, I was charging a battery, and I didn't want to leave the battery charging overnight because I didn't want to cause a fire or anything like that. So I said, you know what, okay, I'm going to go home real quick. I'm going to go home real quick and then come back and just plug out the battery from the power supply when it's done charging. So I went home. And I finished working like at 5 o'clock. I went home, and I went back to the job at like probably 6 or 6:15. So I went in, and I'm like, the guy that locks up was there when I arrived at the job. He's I don't even know what to call him. To me, he could pass for white. He's like one of those confused-looking person. They call him Latino, whatever they want to call themselves, but I go to the job, he was there, and I said to him, you know, I'm saying to him, like, you know, I didn't even want to clock in. I was like, I'm going to be real quick. I just want to plug out this battery and you know, and keep moving. So he's looking at me. I'm like, all right. So I went to my desk, and I'm at my desk. I see this guy walk past my cubicle. I'm like, all right, maybe he's just like locking up. I go somewhere else in the building. I see him behind me, and I mean, at this time, I mean, where I am was like dark, and this man is following me in the building. So I'm like, what's going on? So now I'm there at my job, and I realize that the battery is still charging. It's going to take probably like an hour or so. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to clock in now. So I'm walking back to the time clock. He's following me to the time clock. So I'm like, what's going on? And I said to him, I was like, you know, what's going on? And this man just goes in on me, and I wasn't the only one in this building. He says he's waiting on me to lock up. Why did I come back? Why am I like holding him up and all this stuff? And I'm like, all right, you know. I said I'm not trying to cause no trouble. I just came here to do my job, blah blah blah. I said if you want me to leave, I'll leave. So I punch out. I leave, but it wasn't working. I couldn't even punch out. So when I went to work Monday, the HR lady came to me, and she's like, you know, what time did you leave on Friday? I saw that you left and that you came back. What time did you actually clock out? I said, you know, I didn't stay here very long. I know, like I said, I probably stayed for 15 minutes or 20 minutes or so. I said I got chased out of here. And she's like, by who? And she starts whispering his name. And then she says to me, like she's saying to me, like, he does that to her too. Which I disbelieve, because when I was there, I was the only black person there, and I was the only one that he was chasing out. So yeah, that's my story.
Standard operating procedure. Wow. Did she? I guess did she say anything to suggest how this can be resolved? So if there's ever an issue where you need to come back in the building in the future, that this, you know, will never happen again, and you know he understands that you work there and you have access.
Oh no. When I spoke to her, I just realized that she was practicing racism, because it seems to me like she's familiar with the guy, and she's familiar with his actions. So she didn't say anything to me like, okay, no, I'm going to speak to him. She was like, oh, this is how he is. So if you need to come back here, because she said, if you need to come back here, I should speak to my manager. And I said to her, but my manager wasn't even working that day. She's like, oh, okay. So she didn't really have a solution for me. So all she did was, I told her I'd stay for 15 minutes. She paid me for like 2 hours. She just tried to like throw money at me for me to forget about it. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, I told an engineer about the guy, and they did the same thing. They whispered. They're like, oh, you know, they whispered his name. I'm like, why are they whispering? Why are they whispering? Like, but yeah, that's my job. That's my job.
Codified, they don't even talk loud. Like the Bay Area caller, did you have commentary you wanted to share? Caller in the Bay Area.
Can you hear me? I'm driving though. Can you hear me? Okay.
I can hear you. We can hear the background noise from the car too, but yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, I just wanted to comment on working with predominantly black co-workers on how to act. I have a friend, she's going through this right now, and she's been dealing with this for over a year. She's at the East Oakland, East Mount Mall Social Services, the welfare office, and everyone is basically black that's in a supervisory position, except for the head of the whole office, who's Caucasian. And with this makeup, all of the ladies are catty, it's a trip. And what they end up doing, since there's no white people to pick on that they can do and get away with, that we tend to pick on each other. So, and then we want a lot of this thing called respect, however we can get it. And then we tend to brag on fashion and what goes on on television. So I would suggest that just literally you really dealing with us, even though we don't have a lot of power, we can cause a lot of static at work, and you just don't want that. So maybe don't bring any, like everyone always says, don't bring anything to work. No books that have nothing to do with work, no pictures, because the associate that I know that works at the East Mount Mall branch, she brings nothing. She brings nothing because they'll go through your stuff. And even though it might not be Caucasians doing it, we're so busy being busy that we'll do that just trying to figure you out. So a lot of times, even with us, minimizing all contact, and then we'll watch you, or she's not talking, or what's wrong with her, she thinks she's too good. We'll try to break you down, but you just stand firm and keep a hold of that handbook, because right now, this person that I'm speaking of, she had to go to the union press charges, and she has a case against the welfare office and the supervisors. So you just got to be real careful even dealing with us at work, because we don't have any power, but we will cause unnecessary issues. And that's all. So you can mute my line. And thank you so much.
For sure. Handbook said that again. In fact, I think that will be an assignment for next week. If folks, all the people that are actively employed, and if you have a handbook, policy and procedure for wherever you happen to be employed at, between now and next Thursday, when we do our next installment of Workplace Racism, go through your handbook and pick out at least one rule or policy and procedure that you want to share, and it can be for whatever reason. If you think it relates to racism, if you think it'll help in combating some of the sexual harassment that we've heard about this week, if the policy is not clear, if it's a policy that's not followed, that you've just observed going through the handbook and you see looking at your job that this policy is not followed at all, to point out how arbitrary the enforcement of policy and procedure can be. But I think that would be constructive, just because that is something that is extremely important. Go through policy and procedure. You should know it. You should be familiar with it. And the same thing that I said last week or last Saturday rather, you don't have to like make it a laborsome task. It doesn't have to be where you have to sit down and for 5 hours straight go through and read the pot. Take 30 minutes, take 20 minutes, 15 minutes each day and just go through, read a couple pages, read 3, 4, 5 pages or what have you. Okay, take a few notes if anything sticks out, highlight anything, come back to it the next day, read another 15 minutes. You can do that within a week or 2 weeks. You should have gotten through the whole thing, or if it takes 3 weeks or what have you. But however long, whatever length it is, take that time. It's important because that can be really helpful in just you being able to navigate your job. And again, there are things that will end up being helpful to you. I know me from a personal experience on one of the jobs that I had, we had different types of leave. You had sick days, you had vacation days, you had flex time, and then you had personal days. Everything rolled over except the personal days. That was the only thing that you got a certain allotment of those personal days per year, and if you don't use them, you lose them. So those are ones people generally, the people that were smart, they would save those until the end of the year. So when everybody wanted to take December off for, holiday, so-called Christmas and all the other nonsense, they could just use that so then they could take like a whole 2-3 weeks off and not have to come in. Lots of folks did that. I didn't know that the first year that I was working there, so I ended up losing my personal days because I didn't know, like, oh, these don't roll over. You have to use these or you'll lose them at the end of the year. Just little things like that that can be very, very helpful if you just go through the handbook and pick out what policies and procedures are. So that'll be one bit of homework for next week. Go through policy and procedure, pick out one rule, one policy that you want to share on the program for next week and how it applies to your situation. Did we miss anybody? Anybody that called in? I know at least one person emailed me that I had missed their hand. They were a little bit lower on the queue. I think I have added everybody who dialed in who had a hand up. Did we miss anybody who has not been able to share yet? I think the caller at 0889 had spoke before, but I don't see him on the switchboard. So if you have not been able to share, you should get your hand up now. If you have commentary on workplace racism, if we haven't heard from you. All right. I will assume that we got everybody who dialed in. If you had commentary that you wanted to share, if you've been listening in, or if you dialed in and we didn't get your hand quick enough, feel free. You should dial in right now. Just put your hand up immediately, and we will go right to you. Anybody had comments on anything that they have heard, other suggestions? We had a wealth of participation, at least for the first broadcast of us moving workplace racism to Thursday. I was very wrong on one aspect because I was not sure if people would participate in the same manner as they have been on the Saturday program, compensatory call-in, but grand to have participate. We were competing with the finals today, so I was really wondering if people would be watching LeBron and Steph Curry dual white people's ball games or participating in workplace racism, but I was pleasantly surprised about being incorrect on this one. We'll see if it continues, hopefully so. Anybody have other commentary that they wanted to share, suggestions, or anything else they wanted to get in on workplace racism?
Can I be heard?
Yes, sir.
I have one last incident I forgot about. This was from 2 days ago. At work, I was sitting at my desk, and a coworker who sits next to me was telling me, and in our job, we sometimes have to answer emails, and we'll respond by a secure email. So she had gotten an email, and in the email, the person was upset because her policy is going to be going up by $100 next year. It's just, everything goes up, inflation. So next year, she got a letter next year, she'll be paying an additional $100 than what she's paying this year. And she was upset about that. So she writes into Vent, and at the end of the email, she says, and by the way, Hillary Obamacare sucks, in big letters and exclamation points. So now it's Hillary Obamacare. So I just had to throw that out there because you always talk about damn you Obama. That was a damn you Obama in email form again. Thank you.
Wow. Be using that sound clip for a while. I think Thomas in New York said that last week. That'll be in use even after he leaves office, where he'll be getting blamed and reprimanded for things. Oh, we had this is the same black female that wrote about the situation having a black supervisor on her job who kind of caters to white people and is kind of rude and nasty to her, and kind of has this environment where whites are allowed to kind of do whatever they want without reprimand. Which is the system of white supremacy. She says, suggestions for working with black people: always keep communications constructive and cordial, even if they speak to you in a patronizing manner, not going out to lunch, talking on social media, gossiping, or ever laughing with them. I would co-sign on that. Even reflecting on it, I didn't do that either. I didn't the going out. I actually applied the same rule, and I think I have said this when it's we need to go out and have a luncheon or a Christmas party or a July 4th party. Now that the summer's coming up, I know some places they just have summer barbecues. It doesn't have to be associated with a holiday per se, just it's summertime, so we're going to have a company barbecue. I had the same policy as I did with whites. I did not participate in any of that stuff unless it was mandatory, and I didn't do it the time. I think there's only been one time where I worked in a work environment where it was like exclusively black people, and that was it was a club environment. It was almost every time without fail. I feel like I could almost say every time and it would be accurate. Every time that they went out together as a group, like to go to a different club or to go party or whatever, every time it would be conflict, whether people that worked together got in conflict or they were out at an establishment and it was conflict with somebody else, just every time without fail. And that was what I was trying to avoid in the workplace anyway. So there was no need to go out and, get into that off work hours or outside of work hours. So I would definitely co-sign on that. I wouldn't do a lot of that stuff unless this is, something uniquely constructive about this set of people where we can get together, hang out, and it'll be constructive. If that's not the case, I wouldn't participate in a whole lot of that stuff either. And definitely I would co-sign on the keep communications constructive. I think even 909 had said he in the past had employed looking to do something nice, something constructive for people that he worked with, even people that might not have liked him personally or seemed like, they were trying to have some sort of conflict or beef with him personally, that he would try and do something nice for them so that way, things are cordial, things are constructive, create some good energy, and I'm not doing a whole lot of talking. I'm not trying to get people to talk about racism or any of the other stuff, just trying to, keep things moving away from conflict, where we have good relations, we can work together, get things done, and then as soon as work is over, we go our separate ways and, get ready to do this again whenever you come back into work. Other folks, anything else they wanted to share? Workplace racism. Again, if we missed anybody, if you didn't get an opportunity to share, if you go ahead and get your hand up right now, we'll be sure to get you on the line. Everybody content? Had something they wanted to share? No other observations or questions from any of the folks that we've heard from? I will assume folks are content. Certainly feel free, if you're listening to the archives or what have you, definitely write in. We'll read the emails next week. When we come back on, this will be every Thursday now, same time, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, that we always are on. But if you want to email in, untiljustice@gmail.com. And again, as I said, if people have figured out things that work constructively for anything that has come up or just anything in general that would be helpful on the job in terms of things to know, to help minimize problems, help, keep white people off of you from coming at you with the you don't talk or anything that could be a potential hazard for a non-white person who is trying to stay employed and not just staying on the job, but again, moving up the ladder, getting all your raises and promotions and everything on time. That would be grand as well. Definitely we need to hear codification, people who have figured out some successful strategies for navigating all of this. But we'll be here next Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. I don't know how long the finals will go, but this is an auspicious beginning for us doing the workplace racism on Thursday. If the finals goes to full 7 games, the first 3 installments, that would be the next 2 weeks, we will be competing with basketball. So hopefully it won't go that long and we will be able to have Thursday evening to ourselves, because I think Scandal and Empire are off the air right now since it's summertime, so we won't have any stiff competition with our Thursday evening broadcast with workplace racism. But even with all that, priorities being priorities, what they should be under white supremacy, this is mega important in my opinion, and just something that all of us are dealing with and we should be talking about and just sharing information, observations on a regular basis. So thanks to all the folks who participated and shared. Really appreciate it. The caller at 8043, I saw your hand as well. Did you have commentary you wanted to share?
Yes, I would like to share, and I apologize for coming in late. It really slipped my mind we were doing this tonight. Greetings to you, Gus, and to the listening audience. I just wanted to quickly tell you about an experience I had. I work in a hospital setting, and one of the requirements for the job is that I be certified in advanced cardiac life support. And I took a class, and the class was headed by two white men, and the class makeup was 16 people. 4 were non-white, 2 of which were black females. And class is pretty intensive, and it ends with a test. And when the tests were taken and graded, all 4 of the non-white people were the only ones who did not pass the test, including myself. Test was graded by one, well, both males were grading the test. I became suspicious, and I went back over the test. They did give it back to me to look at my answers. And there were quite a few of my answers that were marked wrong that, to my understanding, I had marked them correctly. So I went... the teacher who marked my test had left the room, and I went to the other teacher. And sure enough, the ones that I had marked, that he marked wrong, were actually right. And I did pass the test. And when I took it, made it to his attention that, he had marked some of my correct answers wrong. He gave me some excuse about how he got drunk over the weekend, blah, 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 and attempted to make light of it. Now, mind you, this is a test that costs about $250 in order to pass this class, and seemed to be really cavalier about the way that he responded to me. I did mention to the other black woman that she should get her test reviewed again, and she just kind of shrugged her shoulders and said, I'll just take the test over. But again, I was really suspicious that only the 4 non-white students were the ones that did not pass. Everyone else passed and left the class early. And I'll mute my line.
Hugely important. I'm so glad we were able to get that in, because Dr. Umar just talked about that when he was on the program, I guess a couple of weeks back in May, and he said exactly, he was talking within the context of students, black students, when they're taking, SAT or other exams while they're in school, that you're not there when they grade the test, so you don't know, what it is. You just get the score after they're done grading it, so you have no idea what could be happening when they go to grade these tests and then come back and tell you, oh, you're inferior in the bell curve and, feeble-minded niggers and blah, blah, blah. But I mean, I'm sure that sort of thing happens all the time. And the tackiness, what kind of excuses that, I was a little drunk, had a few beers this weekend, and somehow in my intoxicated state, the only people who ended up failing as a result of my errors in grading were the non-white students. Wow, that is... At any rate, and I can even, from a personal standpoint, I even can say that is something we should be recommending all the time. Any sort of tests that you take and it comes back you got a bad grade or you didn't do well or whatever the case, you should check the grading every time. You should even, I would say, if you got 100 on the test, you should check the grading. I remember this happened to me. I was taking physics. and I was sitting in the front of the classroom, white teacher. He gave the test, or he was about to give the test back. He was about to give him back. And I think I was talking to the person that was sitting next to me. And the white teacher, he says, and Gus, you should not be talking because you didn't do very well on the last test in front of the whole class and everything, like trying to embarrass me, like, oh, man, I'm acting a fool and I'm flunking the class. Oh, my gosh. And the student that was sitting next to me, he says, oh, that means you got a B+ on the test. So he hands the test back, and I did get a B+ on the test. But then when I looked and checked, he had made an error on the grading. I actually had made an A on the test, and he had to go back and change it. I wanted to be like, now you should go back and announce to the class that Gus is free to talk in class because he got an A on the test, so, whatever. But that should be a recommendation. Students, whatever, if you're in college, high school, elementary school, if you're taking any sort of certification for a job, make sure that you review the grading once they hand your scores back, because it's been my experience, my conclusion, really, that sort of thing is rampant as it relates to non-white people, and they just chalk it up to our fear. And I even suspect Dr. Welsing might even say that some of our inferiorization, because of all the victimization that we experience, that we just internalize it and think it's us. And I'm not saying every time, but some of the time, it's not us. There has been some sabotaging going on. Other commentary, folks wanted to make sure they got in. Miss anybody? Questions, observations?
I just wanted to applaud the lady for not assuming that whatever that white person was doing was final. She had the wherewithal to go over her work with self-confidence and self-respect, and check it and question on whether or not it was confirmed on what she had correct versus what was marked incorrect. And because that happens a lot, I think you mentioned that it happens a lot on the job. Also, there probably was a situation where some of his white buddies, male and female, if it was any white females in there, that he made sure that they passed that test. Also, this happens on jobs all the time. That's why I mentioned but I put it in the context of cheating. They control it. They control it because they're the ones who get the test. They're the ones in positions that get the tests, and they can bring anybody in that they want to be in on it, as far as knowing what the answers are, that sort of thing. And as far as cheating aspects are concerned, we basically get the lower end. They may allow one of us to come in, if they're like that earlier example in the program of the black person who was basically kind of like a friend for the whites and whatnot. But for the most part, we're on the outside with that situation. So I'll applaud the lady and her not assuming that things were just going to go in that particular way, that she went over her work. Thank you.
Ashe, job well done. Great illustration of black self-respect. Absolutely. The caller at 0533, did you have commentary?
Yeah. At my, I did call in a little late, but at my job, I sit a couple of cubes away from a white guy, or did, recently be moved, but he has a black wife, they have children, and he made a comment about her family. He called her sister and her sister's husband rats. And I have a few stories about this guy. The same guy said that you should want to kill your wife. So just something I overheard him talking to another black guy about that sits near me as well. So I just wanted to give you that story.
Wow. I'm just making sure I heard it correctly. So the white coworker, he's married to a black female. He was calling her sister rats. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And then the other person, I guess another colleague, said you should want to kill your wife. I guess they were talking to this.
No, same guy,
Same guy.
white guy.
Okay.
Same conversation. Talking to a black guy that they're pretty close and they're both married, and they talk about basically every single day they talk about their married life. All day long they talk. So he's very comfortable. They're both very comfortable with each other, and it's an older black male, whatever that's supposed to mean. But they talk all the time. So the more I try to get codified, I've been listening more to a lot of white conversations and taking notes and stuff. And so when I heard him say it, it was just I was like, okay, wow. Very comfortable. I work with a lot of people, so a lot of people around, and he's very comfortable. So I just wanted to put that out there. Yeah.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
The tackiness of those arrangements coming through, even though this is workplace racism, but the tackiness of those tragic arrangements. I think, Pam, we talked about that a couple weeks back. In terms of whatever they're doing with you, the white person that's married to a non-white person, you will see it reflected in how they regard your other family members. I think we talked about that in detail. I know it's the workplace situation, but that's the sort of thing, if I was not working with this person, I would ask, do you call your wife's sisters? Oh, man. Do you call your wife's sisters rats in her presence? And if so, is she all right? She's on board with that. She doesn't, see a problem with that at all, like that sort of thing. But yeah, just the tackiness of it all. That's standard. And again, that's why I would encourage minimizing a whole lot of chit chat on the job, because that's the sort of thing that it's going to lead to, whether they're talking about other coworkers or if they're talking about President Obama or whatever it happens to be. That's what a lot of it is going to be. So really try and keep it focused on work-related material and just not a lot of, open fraternizing that is not concerned with what we're supposed to be getting paid to do in the first place. Folks have any other questions, observations, commentary they wanted to make sure they got in? Grant, I think the most participation we've had in workplace racism. I think the earlier move definitely helpful. I did say quite a few folks said that they would be more than willing to participate if it was on earlier, so they obliged. Grant, hopefully it will continue. Anything else folks want to make sure they get in before we wrap things up? Take it. If any hands I see, I'll be sure to get them. We still have... we can do our normal, go all the way to the 3-hour mark, but if I don't see any other hands, then I'll assume folks are satisfied. But if you are listening, if you didn't get a chance to speak, folks that emailed that said they didn't get their line opened up, just dial in if you have a hand up. I will open your line. You can get your commentary, or if you have questions or what have you, comments that you want to make sure you get in before we wrap up. I'll check.
Can I be heard?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
I just had one incident I was thinking about how when white people, now this is a younger white female, I was walking into the break room and she was talking to another, I'm thinking this is a non-white person with beige skin, and I don't think she would be accepted as white, but there was a conversation and it seemed like the tone and the intensity changed, like when I walked in. So I just decided to just stop, like right in the middle of them talking, and I was just listening, and she seemed real comfortable, I guess. So they was talking about, if you can remember the Missouri incident about when the football players, they stopped playing football, I guess, to protest all of the racial incidents. And then, actually, not only just that, but a lot of the college campus racism that was occurring at the time, they was talking about that. And she says, you know what the issue is? And she kind of looks over toward me, 'Cause now I'm just standing between, not in between them, like, but just like observing. So you know what the problem is? Just the black community. And you know, she looks over and she says, "But you know, I'm not racist or anything." She kept saying that, like she said it 2 or 3 times. You know, and I haven't said a word to this person, but you know, I know her, you know, coworker. But she talking to somebody standing in front of her, you know, and then she's saying they just need to go to class and just be productive citizens. And then I just don't get it. You know, the police, they go through this and that, and you know, black people. And then she looks over again and says, again, I'm not racist. They just need to just go to college. And, you know, my little brother, like her mom had another child younger than her that has melanin. I guess, you know, the father is classified as black and her mother is white. So you already know what that means. And she said the younger kid said that he doesn't classify as black. Well, no, he did ended up classifying himself as black because they get everything. So I'm like, well, when you in public, do they think that he's a black person? And she kind of like dodged the question. And she said, well, I guess they kind of do, if that makes any sense. And she seemed to have gotten very emboldened, you know, but still very young. But, you know, that's just been another piece of observation, I guess, with this younger white person. You know, but she just kept saying that I'm not a racist, yo. Like, if I wasn't in the room, she wouldn't be saying that. At least I don't think so. But, you know, have you ever been around people that have done that?
To keep making whatever comments that they're making about black people, disparaging comments generally, but insisting that they are not racist?
Yes, sir. Like after they said it.
Let me think. I was actually thinking, I don't know if the Caucasian persuasion guests, I don't know if they count or not, because I don't remember if they said that they were racist, even though they gave, you know, their pretty blatant spiel about things. I'm trying to think of real life examples. I can't think of anyone off top who's like face-to-face conversation where they just were saying all these blatantly derogatory things about black people, but just kept insisting that they were not racist. I've seen it before, but I haven't encountered it on a personal level. I've seen it a lot on television where somebody will do that. That seems like a pretty standard thing. I just haven't encountered it on a personal level.
It seemed like she was just real anxious to get that out. Like, in my presence, I hadn't even asked her anything. I wasn't upset. I was very calm and quiet while she was saying these things, but she just felt the need to keep saying that for some reason, you know. And I just sat down and ate my food. So I seemed embarrassed by it. I don't know.
It certainly didn't stop her from talking, it seems. Like
it seemed like she was still comfortable, though.
Yeah, that right there to me says a lot. Like, you know, that seems to be the standard. Like, I'm still going to say what I want to say. Like, I'm not just going to be quiet or change the conversation to something else. Like, nah, I'm not intimidated enough to be quiet. But at least I see that there is a dark person here. So, you know, I will at least say this a few times so they'll know that, hey, I'm not racist. At least I can get that over on them. But I'm going to continue to say all my nasty things that I think about black people. Like, I feel like I've seen that so many times that almost is like I've experienced it personally. But I don't, like I said, I can't recall anybody having done that to me where we were talking face to face. But I certainly have seen many, many examples of that where people, particularly once they get caught or that sort of thing, that's standard operating procedure. I'm not a racist. I just, you know, niggers are ignorant or whatever else it happens to be. Anything else folks want to make sure they get out? And again, that's another one right there where I've said consistently, just observing on the job, that too is important, even if you're not directly being mistreated or abused or what have you. Just observing things that are being discussed on the job, that is hugely important. You can learn a lot, you don't have to say a word, just listening to the different conversations that are happening on your job, particularly the last 6 months of this year with the Olympics coming down the road, the presidential election is coming up. I mean, there's so many important things that are going to be happening. You can probably do a lot just being quiet and observing what people are talking about on the job. That will reveal a lot right there. And I'll again say, people should be codifying like now. If you haven't already had it pop up, you should be codifying already what your response is going to be when somebody asks you who you're going to vote for, anything related to the election. Who you going to vote for? What do you think of this Donald Trump? Obama's leaving. What do you think about his time? And any questions related to that, you should already have in mind what your response is going to be. Whatever you need to codify so that you can get comfortable with your response. You can give that out to anybody without thinking a whole lot, how you want to handle all that. Get that in mind because, that's going to be coming in probably pretty thick by the time we get to September and October, I would think. But, that's right around the corner pretty much. Anything else? Any folks want to make sure they get in? Like I said, if I see your hand, we'll get your comment in. If you have anything you want to share before we wrap up, workplace racism related. I'll assume folks are good, but I'll give another check before we wrap things up. In the meantime, we'll be here tomorrow. Workplace racism. Eugenics was mentioned. That is where we are picking up. Not workplace racism, sorry. The book study session. It is medical apartheid going down tomorrow. Our 7th study session. We are beyond the halfway point in the book. Harriet Washington. It is outstanding. Top 10 book, maybe top 5. It is. I've just been immensely impressed with the work. We're picking up in the midpoint kind of chapter 8. Again, she was talking about eugenics, breaking down the history and the evolution of eugenics in this part of the world, globally really, but more so in this part of the world. Margaret Sanger, Lathrop Stoddard, we had a reference, the book Dr. Welsing said we should all be reading, 2016, Rising Tide of Color Against White World Domination. I think it's White World Supremacy, excuse me. But that's tomorrow, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, and then compensatory call-in this Saturday, normal time, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. We'll have more time for folks to discuss news, observations, thoughts from the past 7 days this coming Saturday, June 4th. Looking forward to hearing from both folks then as well. If you have questions, commentary, if you workplace racism, if you have thoughts that you want to email in, feel free to do so. untiljustice@gmail.com, on Twitter @untiljustice, and we can read them next Thursday. Again, this will be our every week time session for workplace racism moving forward. Anything else before we conclude workplace racism? Any final comments, folks, we need to get in? I will assume folks are satisfied. Again, huge thanks for everyone participating. I hope it was a constructive investment of your Thursday evening. Folks certainly could have been doing a lot of other things with their time and energy this evening, but glad that folks chimed in our new time slot for the workplace racism segment, and hopefully we'll have great participation with this segment moving forward. We'll be here next Thursday, same time, 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific. With that, I will again say sobriety would be best under conditions of white terrorism. We do not want to make Daniel Holtzclaw, Darren Wilson, we do not want to make their jobs easy under the system of white terrorism. Anytime you're in a vehicle that is driver, passenger, even as a pedestrian, you do not want to be under the influence. Those lights pull up behind you. That is already a time where you should be really trying to make outstanding decisions. If you're under the influence, it's going to make it hard for you to make correct choices, and it's just going to make their job way easy. If they want to take your life or just lock you up, cost you, how many ever thousands of dollars in time and all this other just way unnecessary problems. We already have enough strife as victims of white supremacy. That's one thing that we could do to make their job a little less easy in terrorizing us. You keep all those toxins and poisons until this problem has been solved. That is an economic move as well, to not fork over any dollars for any of their toxins, intoxicants. We don't need that stuff to help us solve this problem. Buckle up every time you get in the vehicle. That's another thing that we can do to minimize contact with race soldiers. They are on the lookout for melanated folks constantly. Minimize contact with them as well. That's it. Creator, we ask that you help us remain patient with other black people, victims of white supremacy. We ask that you help us remain patient with ourselves. Remind us to demonstrate the highest levels of black self-respect at all times, in all places, each and every time we are in contact with another black person. It has been time. Replace white supremacy with justice immediately. Context of White Supremacy signing out. Thanks all for tuning in.
Nigga, you so brainwashed. I'm a victim, brother. Problem. You're a victim.
Man. I'm a victim of 400 years of conditioning.
Shut up.
The man has programmed my conditioning. Even my conditioning has been conditioned.